Yeah, you're good.
Well, not go
All right.
now. Okay. I'm just kidding.
And go ahead, Tobias. You're good.
All right, boys and girls. My name is Nabias Woolborn. The name on the marquee is Know the Score. And we'll start over because apparently let's talk. All right, so we'll go from there. 1, 2, 3. All right, boys and girls. My name is Nabias Woolborn. The name on the marquee is Know the Score. You can follow us on Twitter at Know the Score Pod. And today we have another full panel. Shout out to Jesse, Don, and Tyler. How are you guys?
Good. How are you doing?
Man, feeling good, feeling great, man. Another day in the jungle and back at it after bourbon ball and all that good stuff, man. So, Don, Tyler, y'all all right?
Yeah, man.
Hey man,
All
feeling
right, sounds
good,
good,
man.
man.
Great,
Wait, did you have a good time though?
great.
I did, man. I may have had too much fun because there's a part of it that just kind of I don't remember and out of mouth kiss somebody at the party.
Sounds like a corn party. Okay.
Well,
I also didn't get beat up at the party either. So there's that. So
Yeah, that's true. You didn't.
I
yeah,
did,
same here. Just want to add, Tobias had a great time hanging out with you.
man, brother. It was
No,
it was really good to actually vibe with you like in real life. So hopefully, Don and Jesse, I get to meet you guys in person too, so we actually kind of kick it and kind of build the rapport. So anyway, from there, let's get right into this NCAA tournament action. The round of 64, quite honestly, was pretty boring to me, but the round of 32 got pretty interesting. I will start with Tyler. What caught your eye the most about the first weekend of tournament?
the AC. Well, we can talk. I'm in the middle of ACC country along with Don, and the fact that the did the ACC lie to us, yeah, or is it a war of attrition where the ACC beat up each other so much that may not have been as good after all. Of course, they came in with 9 teams. They were thought to get 10, but Syracuse stayed at home. And as we go into the Sweet 16, there is just one, and that was North Carolina, which is obviously the best team. So yeah, that part was right. But to see all those teams go down in the ACC and not play well, you know, Duke may have been the biggest upset. Duke losing to South Carolina by giving up 65 points in the second
Yeah, I
half
didn't see that coming at
to a
all.
team that averages like 60, 63 and a half a game. That was a bit of a shock. And also, as we know, just before we went on air, Jason Tatum has declared that he will go pro as expected. So
Oh.
you got to start over.
Hey, get
Coach K.
Tatum, get your money, get your coins, whatever it's called, get all of that shit because it's yours. But I was a little shocked by Duke. I think nowadays we're at a point where these teams are so evenly matched. I mean, like you had Wichita State as a 10th seed, which we'll get into them, barely losing to Kentucky. You look at Dayton as a 7th seed that had to play Wichita State in the first round. I mean, those are two Sweet 16 caliber teams that had to play in the first round. So I mean, if you're an ACC team now, you're also playing against good teams. These are the 64 best teams in the country. So these things that happen. I don't think it takes away from the ACC as a conference this year, but it just goes to show you, man. In football, they say any given Sunday. I guess in college basketball, it's any given tournament day. You can get beat if you ain't ready to play.
True.
Yeah, because back in the day, it was probably like 20 legitimate teams in the 64 team tournament. So, once you got to the Sweet 16 Elite Eight, then it became kind of like anybody can beat you type of tournament. But through time and with the one and done and things of that nature, now it's coming to if you're not like a 1 or a 2 seed, any round you can get beat. And then once you are a 1 or a 2 seed, after you play your first game, that second round game, like Villanova found out, like Duke found out, they can get you at 8 or 9. They can get you because now there's like 48 good teams out of the 64 teams that play in this tournament. And there's not so many easy wins out there like there used to be back in the day when kids stayed longer and teams were older and the rules of the game were different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the kids are definitely different, but also too, it's not just that about kids staying longer. It's that overall. I mean, as much as we talk about on different iterations of the podcast, we talk about the U.S. game being down, but last I checked, the United States hasn't lost an international competition over the age of 18 in at least 5-6 years. So that means our youth players are pretty damn good. And not all those kids go to Duke in Kentucky. Look at Michael Porter Jr., the star high school kid. He's most likely going to Missouri. I mean, of course, Missouri is kind of hiring his dad for a job. But, I mean, that's a whole nother conversation.
That's a whole
Or you look at, UCLA returning with getting, having Lonzo Ball. And, the next couple of years, you're going to have the other ball boys,
Langelo, I think his name is.
LiAngelo and Lamario or whatever. But the point is, they're going to be going to UCLA. So, I mean, I think there's more talented basketball players than there ever has been before. And all of them can't go to Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
And all of them can't go to Duke. And all of them can't go to Carolina. So that means you're going to have a Dame Lillard who ends up at a Western Michigan. Some of these kids who end up at different places. So I think it's more of a testament of the types of players that a Gonzaga is getting or that a Creighton is getting. I mean, you don't have to play at one of the 5 quote-unquote best schools to still be a pro. And sometimes it might be better for you to go to a smaller place.
Mm-hmm.
Jess?
True indeed, yeah. As we've seen, like with Wichita State, and other, can we call them mid-major schools? They've shown us that you can play big ball and go far in the tournament, and go far in the tournament without going to one of the blue bloods of the NCAA college basketball series. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're definitely at a point where, as I said before, I mean, this isn't college football where it's Bama and Clemson, Ohio State, and everybody else. Where Bama can still kind of hoard all the talent, or Ohio State can get all the kids from the Midwest, and Clemson,
right?
Well, wherever they're getting their kids.
I mean, you can just look at Villanova being the champion out of the depleted, reconstructed Big East. You know what I mean? That just tells you just how wide open the tournament is, and you can be from any conference, no matter what the prestige is or what the RPI rating is or what Ken Pomeroy thinks about it, and you can win the championship if you can put together 6 games, and that's what it's all about.
Yep.
Hey, man. Look, if you have a point guard who can handle it, if you have shooter and you have somebody who can rebound it, you play with anybody in the country.
And one dude to play defense that don't care about scoring, that can play defense.
And look, and then, and the 5th guy, if he happens to not be as stiff and you can bring a couple guys off the bench, you can compete with any team in the country. And if you can stay in the game long enough, you got a good coach, you got a chance to win. So I think college basketball is in a really good place, better place than we give it credit for. I mean, some of the games are kind of bad, to be honest, but once you get into the tournament, and I think this weekend, fun time. So I will start with Tyler. I'll start with Don here. Like, what matchup are you most looking forward to coming into this week?
Well, besides the South regional, just as a whole, with the, UCLA, Kentucky is just going to be a fantastic nightcap to the Sweet 16 on Friday night at 9:30.
Wake up the ghost, man! Wake up Adolph Rupp. Wake up the ghost of Pauley Pavilion, baby.
My other matchup that I'm probably going to look forward to watching is Thursday night, checking out Gonzaga and West Virginia. Just the different styles of play, I think it's just going to be so fun. West Virginia with their trap, with their want to get up tempo, don't necessarily want to turn you over, just want to get you to play a little bit faster than you want to. And then Gonzaga, number 1 seed, they've got everything. This is going to be a heck of a weekend for them because, I mean, if they get past Gonzaga and have to play Arizona for a right to go to the Final Four, I mean, they're going to earn it. So Gonzaga, West Virginia, besides the South Regional as a whole, is kind of what I'm interested in.
Jess, what about you, darling?
So the whole East bracket is really interesting to me because it's just a bunch of teams that no one wants to go to Madison. No one wants to, and no one can go to Madison Square Garden to go see. I think their matchup that will really intrigue me. There's a few on here. I mean, that whole East bracket, I just like to see how that squares up because it's just a bunch of teams that no one really expects to go that far in the tournament. You have Wisconsin, Purdue, Baylor, and South Carolina just, taking down teams that you really didn't expect to take down. But I think the matchup I'm going to really look forward to, oh, gosh, this is hard. Other than UCLA, Kentucky, I think I want to see if Arizona's, is about this life and go with Arizona and Xavier because, Xavier has proven themselves against top seeds. And I want to see if either Xavier can take them down or if, Arizona's like, we got this. This is what we're here for, and goes on to the next round.
All right. Tyler, what you got, bro?
Tyler, you're on mute. You're on mute. I'm going to turn my car while you're on mute.
Hey! Nigga.
And where Tyler's gone.
All right, well, fuck Tyler then. We need his opinion anyway.
Damn.
I'm just kidding. He's not going to pick this shit up.
He's going to be so upset when he hears this.
Yeah, well, I'm upset at his phone. Get his life together. Out here, messing up the flow. We out here got a good conversation going. But
all right.
Tyler.
All right, I got you.
Oh, yeah.
I got it. I was almost out. Okay. Gonzaga, Xavier, Arizona is another teacher versus pupil matchup, and I always like those. The guy that said Xavier was on. Those two coaches have a history together, along with Miller at Arizona. That Baylor South Carolina matchup in the East Regional is going to be really, really weird, but interesting because you got two great scorers. I like to see how that might be, even though that might be a 65-62 game. You got two teams that have pretty good defenses going up against each other, and those tend to actually be good chess matches. Of course, since I'm a Carolina fan, I'm looking forward to the South region, and I'm almost in a can't lose situation because if Carolina wins or if UCLA wins, I will have a rooting interest in both teams. Even if Carolina plays UCLA in the regional final, you get the tons of stories, and you get Lonzo Ball, and you get UCLA, and now Steve Alford is going to be a story because of the Indiana job that's open now. I mean, Tom Crean.
Wait a minute, are people thinking he would go back to Indiana? Or no, wait, Alford coached at Purdue, right?
Yes.
I thought Gary Martin.
And of course, Alford, famous schoolboy player in Indiana, as well as, I mean, I could see why people would think he would go back.
They're prepared to what I'm hearing.
Well, and I guess, here's my sidebar, right? Conversation a little bit to the left, but we'll center it back. How good is that Indiana job? Is it really the tradition of Indiana basketball, or was it just
so there's an Indiana where they really are, and there's Indiana who thinks they should be where they are.
Yeah, it sounds like the University of Miami, kind of.
The divide that doesn't really, they're not in the same place.
Yeah, to me, it reminds me of like the Hurricane football team, where everybody keeps telling me, "Oh, they're gonna be back," and
they're not
back to what? I don't see it. And look, I think, obviously Indiana has great history. And the city of Indianapolis is still producing some really great basketball players. I mean, you look at guys like, Greg Oden, you look at guys like Jeff Teague. I mean, there are guys who are coming out of the city of Indianapolis, but none of those guys are going to Indiana. They haven't in 20 years. I mean, Isaiah Thomas, when he came out of Chicago, it was the natural given choice for him to go to Indiana. If Isaiah Thomas came out of Chicago today, I don't think he's going to Indiana.
Right.
Well, and this ironically you mentioned Thomas because Thomas this week has done the little press circuit. He was actually part of the players only broadcast for Thunder Warriors, and he was saying that he feels that Indiana is because of Indiana's reputation, the fact that they are not one of those schools that's depending on all the new technology or adjusting to all of the new things that are going on in college basketball, they're sticking to the tradition, and he believes that people can still sell the tradition of quote unquote IU basketball to those parents. And I don't know if the parents are really buying it anymore.
Man, parents, look, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something, dude. I've covered recruiting for most of my career, either directly or indirectly. Kids don't give a damn about that shit. Kids care about three things, man. Well, okay. Well, I'll put it like this: the elite kids that they're gonna need to compete with the Michigans and Michigan State when they get their ish back together, which I'm assuming they will, and when they get to the level of when they try to get to that level of competing with those top 10, top 15 teams, they need elite players. And what elite players care about is good-looking shoes, resources,
and good-looking uniforms.
Right. And Indiana, they wear them born-ass candy-striped pants that don't nobody care about. I mean, and I say, look, and I'm a noob. I mean, Indiana means something to me more than I can even express. But them pants look silly, man. Anybody getting into that, man. I mean, and they band looks goofy. And Assembly Hall is a beautiful place, but kids like new and flashy. Kids like what Oregon football does. That's why Georgia Tech has some issues sometimes. They were Russell Athletic.
That's the reason why. That's the reason why Carolina redid their whole locker room and put a Jordan shoe wall up in there.
Yeah, because kids like J's. Kids like nice stuff. I mean, now for Tech, and we're going to move on from this. Like, for Tech, the Russell Athletic, founders went to Tech. It's kind of like the same reason why Maryland was an early adopter of Under Armour. Even Under Armour's cooler than Russell. I say all that to say that Indiana ain't cool, and kids like cool. And I don't know if Indiana is willing to be cool or can be cool. So I don't know if they'll ever get the kids they need. And I don't know if they'll ever get a Steve Alford because, hey, say what you will about LeVar Ball, his kids can play. And he's got two of them coming there, at least. And kids going to want to play with them.
Not to mention that team that he has right now, along with Ball's former high school rivals are full on that UCLA team. He beat TJ Leaf and the other kid on his way to the state championship his senior year. So it's not just the Ball brothers. They're bringing kids out of that high-end Southern California area back to UCLA.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing something that really UCLA hadn't done in a very long time, and really 20 or 30 years. They're owning Southern SoCal. And if you know anything about high school basketball, man, there's really 5-6 places where kids come from. It's SoCal, Dallas, Houston, Atlanta. And I can't even say New York anymore for real, but that's a whole other conversation. I know that's going to tick people off, but what, last top 5 player to come out of New York, Kemba?
Yeah, if you call him a top 5.
Exactly.
Yeah, Kemba.
I said top flight, not top 5.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, like, all-star caliber, yeah.
Still
Kemba,
stand.
like I said. Yeah, like, the kids are coming from a very small segment of places. And SoCal is one of those places. And UCLA is starting to own SoCal. So Steve Arthur would be a fool to leave that. Even if it is the nostalgia going home. All right, so for me, I'll get my quick matchups then. We're going to, get on to the next topic here. For me, I am really curious to see how Gonzaga handles playing against West Virginia. I think Gonzaga is better than West Virginia. I think Gonzaga should beat West Virginia. I think I saw a lot of that game. I think Gonzaga was favored by 4. But I want to see how they handle it. And a lot of times, Mark Few tends to lose games like this. And since nobody followed instructions, I asked for 1. Everybody gave 2. I guess I will give a second as well. Kansas and Purdue. Again, I think Kansas is much better than Purdue. I think it should not be a close game, but we all know that these are the games in which the Kansas coach tends to get a little bit of lemon booty, as our friend Bomani Jones would say. This is a prime setup for him to catch that lemon booty and not get as far as they go. Now, I have Kansas to the Final Four in my bracket. Actually, excuse me, now I'm looking at it now. I haven't gone to the championship game. So I want Kansas to win the game, but I wouldn't be shocked that they lose it because these are the kind of games he loses. So we will see. But I tell you one place where you won't lose. You won't lose if you listen to Know the Score Pod on CSPN. Find us each and every week. Click on the hashtag KTS Pod. Follow us on Twitter on KTS Pod. Check us out. Stick and stay with us. So now, guys, we're graduating here. Get out of college. Now we're getting to the money games. Talk about some NBA. It's been a very interesting couple of weeks. And one of the revelations of a couple of weeks is the Warriors may not be who they thought we were. Bang the table. Shout out to Denny Green. Is their downturn real or Memorex, or are we just overhyping it?
I think what is showing everybody right now is that their bench isn't as good as what the Heat assembled to make their run after they got LeBron. They didn't have much of a bench, but the bench that they did have was serviceable. They had a defender and a guy who turned himself into a shooter in Battier. They had a good shooter and scorer in Ray Allen. And then they had a big guy defender in Haslam. And then kind of James Jones was just, emergency man off the bench if we need you. And that's kind of a lot better than what the Warriors currently have. And hopefully for their sake, this playing time will give those guys confidence and help them improve. So when they are called upon in the playoffs, because your bench is very essential in the playoffs to at least, help maintain leads or, make the leagues grow, and especially home games. This experience without having KD will make their bench stronger in the long run. But right now they are not looking as dominant as they had been.
Well, I mean, to me, I think we got some good news, right? That Kevin Durant, according to a report by Chris Haynes and Mark Stein. By the way, is any reporter come up more than Chris Haynes in the last year? I mean, because it seems like every breaking story that isn't Woj is Chris Haynes or Mark Stein on it. I mean, I don't know what the brother Chris Haynes is doing. I've been trying to angle to get him on the podcast for as long as it's been in existence. Hopefully we get him on one day, but brother busy. But man, every time I turn around, am I wrong in that? I mean, you guys read all this stuff too. I mean, it's like every time I turn around, Chris Haynes and Mark Stein on whatever Woj don't get, them boys seem to get it.
That's right. But my question is this: isn't the woes of the Warriors bench, isn't that not the same of every other NBA team in the league? So,
Well, you also got to remember too, like the Warriors gave up a lot to get Kevin Durant. I mean, they had to let Bogut go, and unfortunately for him, he got injured. With the Cavs. Or I think the Cavs would be in a totally
Right.
different situation.
For the past 2.5 seasons, that had kind of been the advantage the Warriors had, is they could kind of go 9 deep. Was their bench, there wasn't much fall off.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, yeah,
they
you
had
give up a guy
Livingston,
like Harrison.
Iguodala. Mm-hmm.
They also gave it to Dallas, I believe. No.
Yeah, I mean, they have some legitimate horses, leave, and the guys who they have left. So I mean, I will say this: if Kevin Durant is healthy and back, I think all this is a moot point.
Right.
If he ain't right, look, they could be susceptible to not getting out of the West, and I think Cleveland could get them too if they do make it out of the West.
Right.
Right. The thing that the Warriors will really have to hope is that he comes back, his knee, he gets his confidence. Like, he comes back with a few games left in the regular season, like maybe 3 games where he can kind of play a few regular season games and not have to find his confidence in the playoffs. And then that, because he's had all this rest, he'll be the freshest player in every series that they play from here on out. If they go deep and they can bank on that, and that maybe by the time you get to the conference finals and the finals, he's got the rest off, he's got his confidence at a, back up to where it was, and he's clicking on all cylinders, and he's the freshest player on either side in those last 2 rounds. That would be what the Warriors could maybe hope for, as best case scenario.
Right, but it's a knee injury, so I don't know how long. I don't think the timeline that they think it will take to get that knee healthy will be the actual timeline. He'll still play with some hesitancy, because it's sore rehab, but not really. But knees are weird like that.
Yeah, you're right. It'll probably be like Steph was, where he'll probably be like 85%, where he'll be good, but he won't have that extra little that you're used to seeing from.
Well, and then that's another question too. Then does he become a defensive liability like Steph was last year? Because if you remember, there was a point where the Cavs just ran everything at Steph Curry. I mean, it became to a point where he was playable, which is incredible to say, for him being the dynamic is, to become a point to where don't even feel comfortable putting him in the lineup.
I don't think so, because the way that they're kind of using him is they're using him more as a closer to the basket defender. So he's not really having to guard the wing as much on this team as he did in Oklahoma City. And I think that might actually save him, because he's doing a lot more of his defending closer to the basket in Golden State as kind of their de facto center kind of power forward.
Well, I mean, and that's a good point. I guess, and of course, we'll see. And a lot of this depends on the matchups and how things shake out. But it is definitely not the foregone conclusion that we thought it would be. And that Golden State was just going to waltz to the finals and win the title just because now it's, they're going to have to fight for it. It's not saying, they're not a championship caliber team, but, hey, look, Spurs are still there, and I think we still
Houston's going to be a problem if they have to run into Houston. That's a team that they don't want to see.
As long as they keep the 1 seed and as long as the Clippers remain in that 4-5 spot, the Warriors are going to be in the conference finals. That's not an issue. It's just who are they going to match up against? Can San Antonio and Houston wear themselves out before they get to the Warriors? I think Houston and San Antonio push themselves to the limit. Maybe go 6, maybe even 7, depending on how the Rockets are hitting shots. And I think you can wear down San Antonio before you take on Golden State. That's the way I think it's overall shaping up.
It could go a lot of different ways. But speaking of wearing down, one of the main topics has been, the resting issue. Is it a problem? Is it not a problem? Thoughts about it, kind of let you guys, speak your mind and hear what you guys think about it.
For me personally, everybody is played around 70, 71 games in the league, and we're still like 3 weeks away from the playoff starting. That's more than enough games. We figured out who's basically gonna make it. I mean, we're looking at the bottom of the playoffs. There may be one or two teams that's in the playoff spot now that may be some changing. Play 70 games, start the season at Christmas, eliminate the back-to-backs, and everything's fine because nobody really cares about the first third of the basketball season. Basketball starts on Halloween usually. Nobody really starts watching and cares about it till Christmas anyway. So just kind of use the plan they did during the lockout. They played 42 games, I think, that year. You add 15, 14 more games, play 56, spread it out a little bit more. And now at the beginning of April, you can start your playoffs. More rest in the summertime for guys, cut off a month during the season and during the playoffs. Have more rest in the summertime and more rest during the season.
Well, and speaking of cutting off, unfortunately, Jessica, she has to get out. So we're going to let her sign off, and then we're going to finish this up and then wrap up the show.
Thanks, you guys. It was great talking to you. I hope to speak to you guys next week.
All right. Be good.
Thank you.
All right, Jess. Have a good one.
All right. You too.
All right. So, I mean, for me, I'm kind of indifferent about it because, look, the only issue I have is when I say, for instance, okay, the issue with like LeBron sitting out the Clippers game. It was a nationally televised game on a Saturday night, and you're looking to see, you know, LeBron James and Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love versus Chris Paul and Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, when they do those promos, and look, and I've done ESPN Radio, I've done the different things. So I've read those promos. I've written those promos. So I know you're writing it to catch that star power, right? And part of it is, you know, having LeBron James out there. I think a lot of this conversation is only centered around, let's say, maybe 2 to 5 NBA players.
Right.
I mean, you think about it. How many guys are you really paying money to see?
KD, the Warriors, basically the Cavs. It's basically the teams. The Cavs, the Warriors, probably the Spurs.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say people are really paying money because, like, look, and again, I live in Atlanta, so I do a lot of work out of Atlanta. I go to other cities, and Atlanta's always the gauge of who's hot and who's not. Generally speaking, the Celtics always do well here because there's a bunch of Bostonians in Atlanta. So, you know, regardless if they're good or bad, Celtics fans are gonna be out. The Knicks same way, Lakers same way.
Mm-hmm.
Have their fans are always gonna have people in the stands because that's just what that is. Now, as far as who's hot, you can tell LeBron was with the Heat. Everybody was a Miami Heat fan. Now he's with the Cavs fan, and same thing with the Warriors. It's Curry. To me, the people who I see, people really going out their way to see Bron, KD, Curry, and of course, I mean, they're on the same team. And Russ.
Mm-hmm.
People ain't going out their way to see James Harden. Now, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, James Harden's a great player, but people ain't like I've never heard nobody say, "Hey, man, you know, I'm finna go buy these tickets to see James Harden." He's just not on that level. I think he could get there, especially if he keeps up this MVP, you know, type, you know what I'm saying, way he's playing. So, I mean, he could get there. But, like, I saw how people was, like, it felt like, you know, the Beatles was in town when the Warriors were here a couple weeks ago. Like, I mean, people following their bus, you know, the whole nine, you know, all outside their hotel. Everybody ain't got it like that. So, I mean, that's kind of what this is. The conversation really boils down to LeBron. But you look at LeBron, LeBron has played more minutes in the NBA than Michael Jordan, than Larry Bird, than Magic Johnson. He's 32, and we assume he still has 4 years left.
Let's not forget the non-NBA minutes that he's played.
Yeah, all those
Olympic commitments that these guys also make too. And this ain't just 1 year.
5 straight finals appearances?
Also.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, every year of his career, he's going deep in the playoffs. At least conference finals are better. So, I mean, he's never really been injured. So, I mean, like, I think we're being unrealistic to expect him not to need a rest here and there. And the teams are doing what's best for them. That being said, I also understand the network's position of this is supposed to be a high-profile game, this Clippers versus Cavs. And
we sell these ads and these beer commercials and these car commercials based on these players playing.
And you've made the TV deal, and you're actually paying the player's salary. And that's why I tell the fans, I said, fans, you have a gripe up to a certain point, but past that point is the networks, because that's how player salaries do get paid.
I think what's changed is the rest is more out front than it used to be. I think it used to be, hey, Jordan's tired. He doesn't have to practice this week, and he can miss 3 of the 4 shoot-arounds. But just do it for the game.
You know what we used to call it back in the day? We used to call it flu-like symptoms. Or in Atlanta, it's called the Buckhead flu. In certain cities, that's what it was. Hey, guy has flu-like symptoms. Oh, okay, well, all right, but whatever.
Right.
So, and particularly, it's interesting. Tom Haberstroh wrote a really good piece for ESPN. It's kind of interesting. It's like basically they call it the tenderization of the NBA, where guys are still doing certain things, but they aren't going out. They aren't trolling the bars. They aren't doing that. Guys are getting more rest. So, like, the home teams are winning more games. So, players are even just stuff as simple as going on the planes pretty regularly. That doesn't happen anymore. Why? Because science told them they were becoming dehydrated, and that dehydration affects athletic performance. There's a lot few drinkers in the league than there's ever been, particularly going back to the 70s, 80s. That's why it kills me when old cats are like, well, back in my day. Well, back in your day, there used to be beer in the locker room. I mean, guys literally drank beer at halftime. I mean, like George Karl and other guys have told the stories because they thought that beer was hydrating back then. So at the halftime, guys drinking a damn Miller Lite at the halftime. So, I mean, but we've learned that wasn't right. And we've learned that, having guys go out at some bar 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and when he's got a game the next day, probably isn't the best thing. So if guys can find ways to take rest there, guys are getting more sleep. If guys are using Tinder instead of going out, to meet their honeys, then why can't they get more rest? And again, like, you don't care if Kemba Walker gets rest. Like, if the Charlotte Hornets are playing the Brooklyn Nets, you don't care if Kemba Walker sits out. You care if LeBron sits out, which I get. I mean, particularly, like I said, if you're somewhere like Memphis, or you're somewhere, well, not Memphis, because Memphis, okay, yeah, because he's with the Cavs. So, yeah, like if you're somewhere like Memphis, you're not going to see LeBron at one time. And I can understand that. But I'd also say, too, whose fault is it the tickets are so high?
Okay. Yeah.
Wait, is that the players' fault, or is that these greedy owners' fault?
See? Exactly. But the players get all the blame, though.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm over it. Hey, look, it's unfortunate. And again, be careful on this, because I haven't paid for a sporting event since I've been in sport. So, but I know how much tickets cost. Like, I see them. Like, I've gotten them. Like, just recently, I have a group of friends, and I was able to get them tickets to a game, and they weren't great. I mean, they were 100 level seats, behind the basket. Those are $100. Those are $100 a ticket, and I was able to get them for. So just that was $400 there. Then I was able to get them a parking pass. They were parking. Well, parking. It also came with the little food gift card. So I think they got like $10, $20 each on food. So you look at it, that's like $500 to take, the family of 4, if you're the husband, wife, and the 2 kids, right? That's a lot of money. I mean, some people, I don't pay that much for my car note and insurance combined. You know what I'm saying? So, that's some serious money. And I can understand how people feel upset about that. But that's not the player's fault. And that's something that the league wants to say, well, we care about the fans, but do you? Because if you did, you want to make the tickets so high.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, for me, like I said, I'm okay with guys resting. I do think they probably need to evaluate it, either stretch it out, because they do try to pack all these games to a very short amount of time. You're not going to shorten the games because these TV contracts are based on these games and these home days. So they're not going to do that. So they're going to have to find a way to stretch it out to make it more viable for guys to play 82 games. But even then, guys get hurt. Guys get nicks. I mean, it happens, man.
Right.
Well, I mean, from there, you look at the league and you look at what's going on. You have these battles. Talk about the top of the table in these leagues. Talk about the bottom of the table, man. Some interesting battles. Eastern Conference. You got Portland and you have Denver. Kind of, to me, as a two teams kind of vying for that A seed. Portland, I think they were a little bit ahead of schedule, and they kind of got slapped back to reality.
Well, they did a player swap that's not that's kind of working out
for both teams.
Hey, for Denver. With
well,
Nurkic.
I mean, that's kind of why. Thank you, Tyler. Look at you. You kind of got me where I was going. So yeah, that's where I was going, because it's going to be interesting with Nurkic coming in, and he's been balling, he's been eating. And he did not look this good towards the end of his stay in Denver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is going to be, and they are literally ahead. Denver's literally ahead by a game in the loss column.
Yeah, it's one game all around. One game in the loss column and the win column. So it's literally Denver loses and Portland wins. They're going to be tied.
Yeah, and they see each other one more time in the season too. So.
Yeah, and Portland's been hot. They've won like 5 in a row, I think. So
yeah, yeah, they're 7-3 in their last 10. So yeah, it's wild how that's going to come down, and that's going to be the race for 8th to see Golden State.
Hey, but I tell you what though, I remember back in the day, Stephen A. Smith once famously said about AI. Hey, AI get you one. I think Dame Lillard might get you one at least in that series. And depending on how healthy Golden State is, he might get you two.
Yeah, Portland matches up well with them. There's a couple of teams that kind of give Golden State fits just on the way that they're constructed. Boston is one, Washington is one, and Portland is another one. That just the way those teams are built, they give Golden State fits.
Man, I wouldn't be, if Portland gets in there, I wouldn't be shocked if they push that to a 6 or 7 game series.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. I want a Houston Rockets, Oklahoma City Thunder first round matchup. Winner takes all. Winner likely gets the MVP. In that first round.
I mean, hey, that would be fun, man. Watching Russ and Harden go at each other for 6-7.
Yeah, man. I'd love to see. And I've got a few Oklahoma City fans on my timeline.
I don't want to see OKC versus Golden State though. I just don't think it'll be a good series. It's not a good matchup for OKC.
No, it's not.
And all it would be is just a bunch of vitriol, and I ain't got time for all.
Which is why I want them in the 3-6, because they wouldn't see each other until the finals. In that one.
Yeah, now I will say that now if OKC was able to make it to the finals, that would make for great theater. I just don't think they're that good. I mean, Russell Westbrook is a very special player, and I think he has a chance to do some really great things going long term. But this team, it's him, Steve Adams, and a bunch of dudes, man.
Yeah, and one of those dudes none of those dudes can shoot the ball. And again, like we were talking off the air, I don't trust any team who can't shoot the basketball. You can't make 38% of your 3-pointers as a team. You can't be trusted when it's time to win championships. And that's in college or NBA.
Yeah, and that's the thing, man. Like I said, as far as I'm concerned, I would like I said, my ideal first matchup would be Golden State versus Portland. I like the idea of Dame going back to Oakland and just kind of doing his thing. And by the way, I have a really fun Q&A coming with him on this week on Sporting News. So you might want to check that out. It should be out I guess it'll be out by the time this episode runs. So, check my Twitter, M1Born19. I'll have that going. And we got into some really fun topics. So, man, shout out to Dame and shout out to 4 Bar Friday. And from there, let's get into some NFL. I mean, I think the NFL has officially come to one sport that doesn't really have an offseason, right? I mean, every time I turn around, whenever the NFL does something, it makes noise. And from there, I guess we will start with what's going on with Colin Kaepernick, man. Like, it is. What do y'all think, man? I got my thoughts. What y'all boys think?
Okay, I'm
Collusion.
straight up about it.
Collusion.
It's so and I've been saying this all week. The famous Boogie Down production line, "You're still telling lies to me," because that's what everybody's doing. All I'm saying is the man on a bad knee put up a rating of 90 in his time that he played, which is better than every free agent quarterback that has been signed. So, and now you got the president of the United States taking credit of him not having a free agent job right now, not having a job right now. Really? All right. I mean, that's that, not to get too political, but he really for all this from taking a knee? Seriously? Come on, man. I know a black ball game when I see it. That's all. I'm sick. Look at you could just point to Glennon getting $19 million.
You can just look at Geno Smith signing with the Giants and hadn't played in 2 seasons.
Man.
Look, I mean, all right. So it's several factors here, right? Like, one, I mean, you look at Mike Freeman wrote a really good piece for Bleacher Report about this, where he got a bunch of GMs that just said what they felt, and they just felt that Colin Kaepernick don't have a place in this league, which is just very disappointing, right? Look, I'm not saying Colin Kaepernick is Peyton Manning at his prime. I'm not saying that he is Tom Brady. I'm not saying that he is, one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league. I'm not saying that I'm not saying that he's Cam Newton. I'm not saying, you know what I mean. I'm not going there. But to say that there are 32 quarterbacks in the league better than him and their backups better than him, I think that's a bit capricious there. And it's just rather disappointing. But, I made the example on Twitter about Myron Rolle, right? Like, there were teams who wouldn't draft that man because he was in med school. That him being smart in a way that didn't pertain to football would be a distraction because he wouldn't be focused on football. He'd actually be focused on, I don't know, being a doctor, like a medical doctor. So they were concerned, and they were also concerned, and I mean, I had GMs and scouts tell me this. Like, there were teams that literally were concerned because they didn't want him rubbing off on his teammates. I'm like, what do you mean?
Robert Smith faced that same thing too. When he made it known that he was going to go to med school after football. That was an issue. And you talk about one of the best running backs in Minnesota history.
Yeah, I mean, so it's kind of interesting. And I'm never one to make comparisons to sports, because I just think they're all BS. And, slavery, this is still sports, regardless of how flawed it is. But this does kind of feel like, I just don't want you boys going back there getting all that book learning. That's what this feels like. And it's also the same thing with a Colin Kaepernick, where, hey, man, look, the guy made the protest. He did what he did. And now they're being duplicitous on the man, because now it goes from, we don't want you kneeling, right? Then he said, okay, all right, fine. You know what? You got me. I'll stand. Then it's like, oh, well, you're just standing because you want a job. It's like, well, which one is it, man? And on top of it all, it just goes to show you just how flawed people are. And the same conversation I was having with the NBA players, because it always becomes, I hate NBA guy, right? It's, well, these guys make millions, so they should just do whatever we tell them to do. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm just amazed at how pro-labor this country is, and quite honestly, anti-black this country is. Even in sports, they love you when you're entertaining them, but when you make them think, they don't like you so much. And that's what Colin Kaepernick did. He made the world think.
It's just another example, kind of like what a lot of players face is I can be myself and I can express myself and I can, my views socially and politically at the risk of losing it all. And that's no matter what level of player you are. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter if you're the 7th round pick or the 1st round pick. If you get out here and you get quote unquote out of line with the establishment, which are the 32 owners and GMs and front offices in the league, then they can hold you outside of the league like they're doing with Colin Kaepernick, like they did with Barry Bonds when he could still clearly still play. Where he tried for 2 years to get in, nobody would take him. So, I mean, these organizations are clubs. These leagues are clubs. They're all one big together thing. You know what I'm saying? They compete, but they all share money together. They all share the same information on these players. So, at the end of the day, that's why a lot of guys will just suck it in and go hard when they see injustice and things going on outside their front door and keep it moving and dress in these weird clothes and stand up at the podium every week and try to use cliches that don't match because they understand that, guess what? If they want to, they can take it all away just like they gave it to me.
Well, and I think it's a very interesting thing because so much goes into that because, people say, well, Colin Kaepernick, it wasn't brave. We see how brave it was, right? Because, I mean, hey, look, this man was still in the league and would have still been in the league even if he never got another starting job again. He would have been in the league another 5-6 years, collecting more checks. They have essentially banished this man. Now, we'll see. Hey, for all we know, maybe by this time next week, somebody picks him up. Or maybe somebody picks him up
in training camp. Yeah.
Right.
Quarterbacks get hurt in the offseason and preseason.
Yeah, I mean, it ain't over yet, but it is a little disappointing. Some of the quarterbacks you've kind of seen go before him, and for him not to get a shot, knowing what we know. So, NFL needs to do better, and that has some ways to go. And it just goes to show you, man, race is still an issue, and it's still real, and it's still prevalent. And these owners basically this is a power play right now. This is a straight up power play. This is a straight up lesson to, hey, like they said, let this be a lesson to the rest of you.
Mm-hmm.
And we will see. I would like to see the Players Association do something. And I don't know what they can do. I don't know how that works. But it would be nice to see them either put out a statement or something of that nature to stand up for Colin Kaepernick, man. Because, hey, always remember, man, if I don't take there's nothing else in the world that you ever believe me say. Remember this. What they will do to the least of us, they will do to the rest of us. And if they stand and allow this to happen to Colin Kaepernick, it could be them one day.
Mm-hmm. Right. Because the sports business is a use me up business. And some players can make their worst stretch longer than others can. It's just about their talent, one, and B, their politics, two. The difference between Randy Moss and T.O. is not really their talent. It's just that Randy Moss was a better guy in the locker room, so he got more chances. And thus you see him on TV, you see him in commercials, blah, 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 blah. Where T.O.'s reputation of not being good behind the scenes has cost him so much outside of the game, where now he's seen as a guy scraping and clawing to do everything he can to get into it. And this all comes back to, hey, guess what? You didn't play the game the right way in the circles where it really mattered.
Yeah, it's a dirty game, man. But I'll tell you one place where it's not a dirty game where we keep it fair. Here is on Know the Score on the CSP network. My name is Bryce Wilborn. Here with Tyler, here with Don. Jesse was with us earlier. She had to get out of here. And speaking of getting out of here, I think we're about to get the go home button here, and we'll get a quick final thought from the crew, and then we'll keep it moving, man. Starting with Tyler, what you got, bro? Or better yet,
Now you're on the mute again, Tyler.
yeah, we'll start with Don, and we'll come back to Tyler. All right.
Oh well, my thing is, I would just say all the people who love to crucify Roy Williams. He was the worst coach in America like a week ago when Carolina lost to Duke in the ACC tournament. He does pretty good for himself in North Carolina, and I think people just need to stop, lowering the boom on him every time the players don't come through and execute. I mean, the guy's been to the Final Four half the years he's coached at Carolina. He's won 2 titles. He's played for 4. So, I mean, what more can he do? I mean, I know everything's in comparison to Coach K, but he's doing the same thing Coach K is doing with maybe a lesser tier player on average than Coach K is doing. So I think he's doing a heck of a job. And people who are Carolina fans that always get riled up when they come up short need to understand that one day he's not going to be the coach anymore, and it could be like it was when Brad Daugherty was the coach. So just remember.
I'm actually watching live. Atlanta is at DC in a very important Eastern Conference matchup. I'm still mystified at how the Wizards have gotten where they are, because, well, particularly they've decided to, they've spreaded the floor a bit more, and they actually play a little bit better defense. But really, the reemergence of Otto Porter has kind of set this team, and you get a healthy Brad Beal. So John Wall's got shooters around him. They're a fun team to watch. As long as they figure out how to play defense, this is a team that actually, I would say, this is a team that's going to push the Cavaliers once they figure out how to defend folks. So I'm just interested. As a Wizards fan, I'm very pleased with what this product that this team's put out. So that is my dark horse team to watch for the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, hey man, look, I think Otto Porter should be, if not a candidate for most improved in the NBA. I mean, you look at him, you look at Rudy Gobert, you look at Antetokounmpo, and I would say my man THJ, Tim Hardaway Jr. in Atlanta probably be like, to me, those would be like my 5 candidates for most improved. And Otto Porter is definitely there. He's a big part of why the Wizards, I think right now, are like the second best team in the East.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, man, I'm not saying they could beat Cleveland, but I tell you what, man, there ain't nobody in the East that they couldn't give it to if they're right, if Bradley Beal and John Wall are right. We just haven't seen them right in a playoff series yet.
And that includes the 2 seed Boston too.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Boston's
hey, look,
clinched it too, but that includes them.
They could beat Boston in a series, and I would love 6-7 games of IT versus John Wall. Man, I think that would be
man. We almost got that a few years. We almost got that a few years back too, before Wall went down.
Yeah, that would be some fun basketball. Well, I guess for me, I will kind of just give a little bit of, one, just a shout out to Jimmy Breslin, who, sports writer, columnist, just one of the greats. And, it's really sad to see him go. And also on a week where Chuck Berry passed away too. So, 2017 hasn't been as rough of a year on losing the greats as 2016 was. But, we're still losing some people who, really matter to us and to our society and have role that we live in. So with that, go back, read some of Breslin's stuff, go listen to some Chuck Berry, get into what their art form was and why, these people are so special. And, there's people like Little Richard who are still here. There's people like Bill Rhoden who are still here. Get them their flowers while they're still here, man, because they've definitely earned it and deserved it. And the score. So Once again, I want to thank everybody for listening, and we're out.